Hello and welcome to the I Wish I Started Sooner podcast. I'm your host, Michael Dwayne Paylor. And today I have my very first Zoom interview. And let me go ahead and let this music drop out before I get into it. All right, so very first Zoom interview. So we're moving up, we're getting better. And before I introduce you to this person you see already on the screen, let me tell you a little bit about how, before I even met him, I heard about the legend of him. Now, you don't even know this, but I'm going to tell you right now. So in high school, years and years ago, I was into music theater classes. I did the plays. I did all that stuff. Later, I would do choir. And that's when I heard about the legend of Billy, because all the choir folks, even though there were a few of us, I say us like I can sing, but there were a few people who could sing really well in the choir. And no matter how well they sung, no matter which period they were from, how well they sung, nobody was better than Billy. And I didn't even know who you was at the time, but everybody was like, oh, you think they can sing? Billy could really sing. Do you know Billy? I was like, who is this guy? And then I think later I would meet you and you was chilling inside, I think, the choir room where they used to keep the keyboards. And you were like playing the keys and making beats. In fact, I think you used to make beats on that thing. And I was like, damn, this guy can make beats too on the keyboard. And apparently he's the best singer in this whole damn school. Like, I didn't even hear. But I heard about you long before I met you. And then we met, we have mutual friends. We hung out. I think you came to my house multiple times, played games, video games and stuff. And I must say, among most people I know, almost all, you have been a very consistent dude, stand-up guy, true and true. And I got to appreciate you, man. I'm going to give you some flowers. Ladies and gentlemen, this man, the legend, Billy. Should I call you Sardou? Or do you want to go by Marc? How do you want to go by? I always known you by Billy.
Let's go with Sardou.
Okay. Because your online names are Marc Sardou.
Yeah.
And what is the reason for that? Why the difference? Now, is your real name Billy? Because I found out some things about people that I've always known to be under one name, and turns out their name is something else.
Yes.
Okay.
It is Billy. My full actual name is Sardou Billy Marc Sainville. So that's the full name.
So wait, is it how many of those are your first name? Is it just
Sardou?
Okay.
Just Sardou. But when I went to school, I guess in elementary or middle school, whatever.
Hold up. Now you're getting ahead of yourself. You got all these names. We need to investigate. Why do you have so many names? You got two middle names?
Yeah, Billy and Marc. Well, first of all, Sardou is from a singer, French singer.
Okay.
Billy is from Billy Graham, speaker. And then Marc, I think, was a comedian or something.
Really?
Yeah.
So wait, was it your mom who named you?
Yeah. I guess, I don't know if it was a tag team thing, but yeah, I think it was more.
So they named you based off of influences that impacted their lives.
Yeah, I would assume so, yeah.
That's crazy because I did the exact same thing for my firstborn, whose name is Olivia Gray. Her first name is Olivia Gray. But I got those names from Olivia from The Cosby Show, Raven Simone's character, because she was sweet and adorable. And I was like, I want my daughter to be that. And Olivia Benson from Special Victims Unit, Law and Order.
Okay.
Because she's courageous and and then Gray came from Grey's Anatomy and then Jean Grey. So I did fictional characters that I was inspired by, and I guess your parents did real life people. Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah, I didn't like Sardou growing up.
No? So
that's why people knew me as Billy.
Okay.
Because as soon as the teacher was reading out the names on the first day of school, I was like, call me Billy.
So how early did you decide, I don't want to go by my first name?
by Sardou as early as I can remember.
Mm.
Like elementary school, I would just say, "Call me Billy." Um, but it's weird because I don't ever remember my parents ever calling me Sardou either.
Mm.
So I guess maybe them calling me Billy caused me to have them wherever I went just call
It
me Billy.
it created your preference, and
Yeah,
it's what you heard so much at home that you didn't
yeah.
want to hear anything else.
Mhm.
And then I guess the kids might have like had different ways of like roasting your name or something, which I don't know. Like it doesn't seem like there's much there,
Yeah.
but
There's not much you could do with Billy.
well,
Just
not
Billy.
Billy. Billy is pretty cool. Like
Mhm.
Billy the Kid. There's a whole bunch of outlaws with that name.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. The discussion we're having today is about music because from the intro, you may get a little bit of that Billy's into music and music production, also writing. When did you like start developing your talents in music? You also play an instrument. Was playing the piano your entrance into like also singing, or how did that come about?
Um, Singing was always a desire of mine. When I was in elementary school, I distinctly remember third grade being crushed when the choir teacher told me I couldn't be in choir
Mm.
because I had to be in the fourth grade. So I was like, I guess I gotta wait a year. So because I seen the choir kids in the cafeteria. I was like, oh, I want to do this,
Yeah.
but I couldn't. But my first instrument was supposed to be violin, but they ran out of violins, so they gave me a clarinet.
And around what age was that? Because
And
my
this was third grade.
third grade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because my first instrument was like the 99-cent recorder, the little flute that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really cheap, and they charged us twice as much as it cost.
Mhm. Oh man. But
So third grade, you wanted to do violin, they ran out.
mhm.
Why violin though?
I have no idea. I guess I was drawn to it at the time, and I was like, violin,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. But they gave me a clarinet, and I didn't practice that whole year. I didn't even pick it up.
You
But
could
the
have been
following,
the you if you'd have practiced the clarinet, you could have been bigger than Kelpie G from SpongeBob. That could have been your whole thing. You
I
and
could have been.
Squidward.
Yeah.
But I guess even the whole aesthetic of a clarinet just didn't give you good vibes. So you put that away. You didn't practice for an entire year.
Yeah, I
You just
didn't. But then I picked up the following year. I chose the saxophone instead, and I did not let that one go.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so
So you
that was
played
my
that for
actual
how
first
long?
instrument, all the way up till I graduated high school.
Really? I've never seen you carrying a saxophone case, but I've seen you multiple times sitting around pianos and keyboards. So
Yeah.
to this day, you can still play the saxophone.
When I graduated high school, I had to give it back because I didn't own it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always borrowing the school saxophones. So that was kind of the last time that I played.
Man, that's crazy. You
But
never
I played
just
for an anniversary at the high school once. So
you can always just walk by a guitar center, go in there and grab one of those sax, go to town. Maybe you still got the bite and the interest in it.
the only reason I wouldn't was because I was very, very good.
Really?
Yes, and I would not want to go back and even try to play myself. Like I can probably still play some stuff, but that was my first instrument, and it was more. I was more talented at that than I was on the piano.
So why didn't you keep that up? Or why don't you have the inclination to go back to it? Like you're afraid that you've gotten so dusty that you don't want to start from that's no reason. Especially if you think you were better with that instrument than you are with others.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point now, my piano skills have
Okay.
yeah have gone to another level. So I wouldn't even be able to catch up with. with the
I
saxophone.
always wanted to play an instrument, but I think the issue was that there were times when I was a child, my parents did buy me instruments, but I think their only mistake with it was including them with like Christmas presents and birthday presents, stuff like that. I've gotten guitars and keyboards and stuff, but I got it during the holidays. It made me think this is just a toy with all the other toys I had. So I never like developed the discipline or the interest of, hey, this is something different. It's something to be played, but not played with. So
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
yeah, I really, really wish I had gotten into it and started something. I mean, not the recorder, that's trash. I've never to this day seen somebody play a recorder really well to the point where I'd be like, man, I wish I'd have stuck with those, first grade classes. I could have been somebody. Never. That must be the worst instrument.
There's got to be somebody though.
It has to be. Maybe I'll Google it and see.
Yeah.
So you put away the sax, focused on getting yourself. Let's say we're back at third grade. You wanted to get on the choir. So even before you were allowed to participate in school, did you have any experience with like church or any other places? Like, why did you feel the urge to sing so young? Did you get like positive like influences telling you, you're pretty good at this, you should, go out for this or do more with it?
No, that I didn't. As far as singing, I didn't realize I had something until middle school.
Hmm.
But I guess it was just something I naturally loved doing. So even though I wasn't able to be in the choir, I knew, singing was something that I liked, and so I just continued to, as a kid, you just sing whenever you want, and then it was just something that I never let go, and so I joined the choir, and I was in a choir in school, you know, throughout my whole education. So I ended up doing that.
So is that where you learned like everything or most of what you know as far as your training is just from your public school education of it? You didn't have any private lessons or any
No,
other
I never
people?
had any private lessons with singing. I would love to have a coach, but yeah, I just everything was experienced from being in school choirs. Um, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I would say that was basically it. And even with like music theory,
Mm-hmm.
um, I learned music theory through saxophone. That's how I was able to know my theory because piano I'm self-taught, and so I was able to kind of connect the theory with the piano, from other teachers, or they'll tell me this is this note, and then I kind of figured out what kind of chords I'm playing and things like that. So it was an easy transition.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, all of my theory came from playing the saxophone.
So growing up, um, for example, when I was growing up, I listened to mostly what my parents was playing, um, a little bit of what my sister was playing, which was like early hip hop, like 80s. Like it was still figuring itself out. But who were your influences early on when it came to music? Like who did you listen to? Like what was the environment that your household was somewhat?
Um, Most of what I listened to growing up, um, my mom, come to think of it, she didn't really play that much music in the house. My
Mm-hmm.
experience with listening to her music was normally in the car, when we were on drives. So she would listen to like a soft rock radio station that had Brian Adams, Phil Collins, uh, people along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then when I was home, I remember for me, I grew up, I think a generic choice for a lot of people was Michael Jackson, but
Yeah.
Boys to Men was my definite go to. The youngest that I could remember, Boys to Men was my first. and still, like, for me, my greatest artist influence.
Do you remember discovering them when they were like early on, like in the 90s, like when they first hit the scene, or a little later, and then you went back and heard about them?
When did I hear about them? It had to be um, maybe around 95, like mid 90s or
Okay.
something. I feel like I started. Yeah, I guess early on. I guess kind of when it came out, because I remember the song "It's So Hard to Say Goodbye."
Mm.
It was early in their career, um, and then listening to their number ones when I was in middle school. So it was, yeah, they were definitely an influence.
Yeah. So with with respect to like your style of music, who would you say you somewhat mimic your writing, or your influences from? How do you write your songs, and who do you think it's most similar to, or you're inspired to? Because I don't want to say similar like you're copying anybody. It's like a unique piece of work, but who do you feel like, okay, I heard this and it made me want to do something. It made me want to write something new.
It depends on the style of song that I write,
Mm.
um, because I've had people who would listen to some of my music. They would come in, and without me even telling them that I like Boyz II Men was a big influence, they're like, "Yo, that reminds me of Boyz II Men."
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So they pick up on it. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
So that's one of the things they pick up on. And then another person that was a big influence on me was Usher.
Okay.
So
So let me ask you this. What's your favorite Usher album?
my favorite Usher album would have to be between Confessions and what is it called? Looking for Myself.
When did Looking for Myself come out? Was that after Confessions?
Yeah, that
Mm.
one was after Confessions. That might have been after Here I Stand. That was the one that had the single Scream on it.
Mm.
It also had the song Dive, um, Let Me See with Rick Ross. Uh, Not that that was one of my favorite songs, but that album definitely was one of the albums I could just let.
Play and just absorb. Um, I think the 8701 album is,
I was about to say, but my favorite songs of his
or on that album.
are on that album. But that whole album is not my favorite. But my
Really?
favorite songs are on that album.
See, I think Confessions just took what worked from 8701 and improved on it slightly a bit, and it became a classic. But I think 8701 was good. I think that's more, I set with that album more, I think.
Mhm,
But some of the later things I couldn't tell you about.
mhm.
But Usher, Boyz II Men, that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, you had a performance at your church. What was the name of the church?
Chestnut Street Community Church.
Okay, you had a performance. What year was that? Do you
That
remember?
was about 2014.
Where's the footage? I'm pretty sure you videotaped it. Where is it at? Hmm?
I have like a couple of snippets, maybe some stuff that my friends recorded on their phones. Um, but for some reason, I didn't care to record it. I
Mm.
just wanted to, do my performance. And
So, are you interested in doing another performance? I mean, I know about COVID and then people aren't coming out, but I think, I mean, especially with the technology we're using right now, people would be interested in seeing some type of performance from you. Have you considered doing something like via Zoom, or any other type of web video services?
I haven't thought about anything online as far as performance
Hmm.
based, but as far as performing live again, um, it's on my list, but it's not really like a big priority for me. I just want to get the musical, I guess, material together to do that because my what I want my next performance to be is actually with a quartet and me on
Oh,
the
you looking
keys.
for members? Because now I can't hold a note, but
Yeah,
I'm
string
not
quartet.
toned at. Oh, I thought you meant you needed three other members of your group.
Yeah,
I thought I heard quartet. Like, all right,
I mean, do you play the cello or the
nope.
violin?
I can stand there and act like I'm doing it. Just play the records. So you're looking for some instrument, some musicians to play backup while you
Yeah,
perform.
yeah, because the concert that I had last time was just me at the keys and a guitarist.
Hmm.
Um, and so I did all original material, and then I did like a small section of like covers that people would know.
Yes.
Like I didn't do the whole song. I did like snippets of songs here just to kind of get the interaction with the crowd, which was pretty cool. But I think my next experience, I would have me and the guitarist again, but I would like to have a quartet uh, alongside because I do like a lot of ballad stuff live
Hmm.
with, yeah.
Earlier, you talked about being more interested in writing and collabing. Uh, what are some ways that you're advertising your skills in writing, like to other musicians? Like, how do you get the word out to let people know that, hey, look, check out my work. You might be interested, or do you
Um,
do recordings or like what do they call those songs? Reference songs? Do you put any of those out into the?
well, one way that I'm able to kind of display what I can do, uh, there's an app called Voicey,
Mm-hmm.
where it was intended to have producers and songwriters link up with each other, I guess, through the app. So the producers would upload tracks on that app, and singers would be able to record their voice or sing over it. They can write over it, and it would just be
Right from your
posted,
phone?
yeah, right on your phone,
Mm.
and it would only be posted on the app. It's not like I can record a song over the beat and release it because that would be stealing.
Yeah.
But the producers and the songwriters know this is our community. You can write over these beats, but this is an opportunity for you to contact the producer if you actually want to make it a real song.
Oh, okay.
So what I also did was I took whatever I wrote and I put it on my IGTV so people can see my diversity in my writing styles. Because I have like a country one there, I have pop, R&B, um, like rap, different styles I have that I've written on the app that I posted just for people to be able to see what I can do. Um,
What would you say your most what you're most comfortable with as far as genre, as far as your writing style? Like you say, you had country, you had pop. What do you find yourself writing more of, or does it matter? It like their lyrics, so it can all change depending on the beat, right?
yeah, it definitely could all change.
But are
But
there certain genres that you feel like you're drawn to more?
yeah, let me do ballads. Like I'll jump on ballads quick. I love doing ballads. I would say that's my most intriguing one to write on. But outside of that, I mean, I haven't really seen any genre that I can't write for.
Mm-hmm.
If it is there, it wouldn't take me long to figure out how to write for it.
What would you say your favorite ballad is of all time? I tell
Um,
you what, because we're
I,
millennials, it seems like we can never get a millennial to say what their favorite anything is. So I'll give you three,
mhm.
three tops favorite
Okay, well,
ballads.
I was gonna say right off the bat, my favorite duet song which is a ballad, is with Brian McKnight and Mariah Carey.
What was the name of that one?
Whenever You Call.
Whenever You Call.
Yeah.
I can't bring up.
Yeah, I don't think they released that as a single, but I heard it on Mariah's #1 album, and that's just one of my favorite ballads of all time.
You got a second one? I will match that one, even though I haven't heard it, with, again, Mariah Carey with Whitney Houston. What was the name of that song they did for that motion picture? The Prince of Egypt. I forget the name of the song, but it was off of that movie soundtrack.
When You Believe?
Yes. Does that count as a ballad? It's two of them.
Yeah. That one was definitely a classic. That one's definitely a classic. Another ballad. I don't think I can.
I kind of want to play this one, but I guess I can mute it out just to hear what you're saying. This it?
Yeah.
It's kind of long though. I will listen to it later. I don't want to.
That song is amazing.
Get flagged. Hey man, I was just bragging to my 14-year-old that her generation doesn't have any good R&B singers, and they're missing out because they don't have, like, to my knowledge, they don't have any R&B groups. Like we had Drew Hill, we had, like you said, Boyz II Men, Jagged Edge. Some people like them, but we had a lot. We had a lot of R&B, and it was good. Now it's just they get their R&B from their favorite rapper. They rap and they sing now. I'm not saying I don't like it. I like it. I just don't think they're getting their fair share of the R&B the feels. Like they're missing out something. So maybe you could remedy that. You know what I've been having an issue with? There's no young musicians, like no artists for the kids, like young kids. Who do you take your kids to go to see a concert when the world comes back up? Like all the young pop stars grew up and now they just rap about sex and sing about sex and stuff like that. Like who do we have? Bow Wow's grown. Ariana Grande, you should hear the stuff she sang.
She's went into grown mode.
Oh, super grown. Some of the stuff she sang, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
I'd expect like a different sticker on the front of this album. But I think that's an issue. Like, why do you think there's nobody, like, even the last couple of years, like, why can't there be someone for the younger generation to, like, listen to, like, vibe to? Why does it have to be, like, if you're 9 years old, you're listening to The Baby? And The Baby, I'm not saying anything he says is wrong. It's just not appropriate for the younger generations, you know?
Yeah. I kind of hold the, I guess, labels and even artists, accountable. Like, there's really no limits to what can be written, like even for me, like when I write material, you can play it for any age. That'll always be, for me as an artist, if I can't play it in the elementary school, then I'm not writing about it.
Now, let me ask you this, because as an artist, your creativity comes from like a part of your soul, your personality, like somewhere deep. You're telling me there's no vulgarness, no experiences that you need to cuss about once or twice in any of your music?
No.
Nope.
I mean, I know they say.
And I believe it. You know why I believe it? Because before I met you, back when it was just the legend of Billy, I was asking about, like, who's this guy? Like, you know him? And he's like, yeah, I know him. Like, you know him too? Like, yeah, I know him. Like, yo, how's everybody know this guy? I don't know him. And he was like, oh, well, he's like, he's not like regular people. Like, he don't be cursing, like being in the streets. Like, he's a stand-up guy. Yes, this is what I heard about you before I met you. And I was like, oh. everybody is about the nonsense. Like, you let me meet them, I'll bring it out of them. Wait and see. And then I think this was the time where I had moved a TV into my garage, and we would go into the garage to like play Perfect Dark and like be as loud as we want to without my dad like yelling at us. And sure enough, no matter what, we were playing Perfect Dark, GoldenEye, all the classics. And I would go out of my way to make sure I shot you as soon as you spawn. I was like, this guy's going to lose his mind eventually. And sure enough, every time I shoot you, crackers or sugar snaps. Like, this guy would never curse. I was like, what the heck? How am I going to get this out of him? Never got it out of him. That's why I say he was a stand-up guy, man. One of the few people who've been straight the entire time.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I'll give you some more of these flowers. Drop a bomb for you. So your music is basically anybody can hear it. Play it for the elementary school. Play it for your grandparents. It's always going to be just like quality music. You don't go for the flash or the whatever's going to get you popping fast or whatever the trendy thing is. Now, why is that? Because it's a lot easier to just do what's like that low hanging fruit. Way easier, especially now with the age of the internet. Why did you decide to do it the other way?
There's no life to it for me. It just, like, I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me to write about something that, like, I want to promote. Like, there's, how could I say this? There are artists that are out there that may be talking about, I don't know, shooting someone or drugs or sexual orientation, stuff like that. None of that really applies to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nothing that I would want to play for a kid to listen to.
Yeah. And you don't want to write something and then have to perform it and be pretending to be this thing that you created. You want to always feel authentic with your music and your craft.
Yeah. But in a way, I could still also write things that are not really related to me, but still kind of be positive. Like, I wrote a song for my cousin in a perspective of a father expecting a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And his joy about to be a father.
Was your cousin expecting?
Yeah, his wife was pregnant. So I was like, you know what? Let me write a song for him in a perspective of a father being excited. And that's what I did. But I've never been in that position, but I'm able to portray, I guess, that perspective as a writer. In the same way, I guess, people can do that about drugs, sex, money, things like that. But it's like, we have so many options of what to write about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do we have to stick to one lane? I know how they say sex sells, but I feel like quality sells as well.
I think quality lasts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it always sells. I will say, like, because I love music, I wish I had the skill to make it. But the great thing about music, there is many times where I may have listened to an album when it first came out and I didn't vibe with it, I didn't connect with it. And then years later, I can come back and revisit it. And if it's a quality track or an album, it'll still be just as great as it was when that artist first created it. And that's happened multiple times. Like, there was an artist named Miss Dynamite who was from like the UK, English accent and all that stuff. I bought an album based off of just hearing a single once. This is like 2002, 2003, years ago. And bought the album, listened to it, didn't really care for it, put it away. A few years later, I was looking for something to listen to while I was doing like schoolwork and put that on and it just connect. And it was like, yo, this is a great album. Like everything works. And that's because it's quality. The quality lasts. And certain things, and like you said, you know, it sells, sex sells, violence sells. If it bleeds, it leads. However, that thing might take off initially, but it may not stay on the charts. It may not be something people want to listen to 2 or 3 years later, because it might have been popular. It could have been the #2 record in the country. But who wants to listen to it 3 years from now? Or who's going back to that entire body of work? I think that's happened with the album I just spoke about, but also with Kendrick Lamar, to Pimp a Butterfly. First time I heard it, I was like, oh, this isn't as good as Good Kid, Mad City. Like, I put it away, went and heard something else, came back to it, and I was like, oh, I get it. And that's the crazy thing about artists. I admire that talent so much that even when somebody creates something with an idea and an image in mind that the public weren't even ready to receive, like how certain individuals can be so ahead of their time. It's just it's amazing. I love the whole concept of it, like creativity, you know. Yeah. So I really do agree. Like, I mean, I agree with the whole quality part, but I think I brought that up. But I agree with you as far as, you know, not making stuff just to chase. You remember Music Soul Child?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I don't know if you're aware, but there was maybe a few years ago, he wasn't doing too well. He tried to rebrand himself as Hustler or Hustle something. And he was wearing like a leather hat that had like a crown in it. But his whole thing was a gimmick. It was like, all right, I'm no longer Music Soul Child, I'm Hustle. And I'm going to do all the auto-tune rap singing. And that's what he did. And nobody was liking it because that's not you. That's not why we came to you in the first place. You're chasing what's hot now, and it's not quality. And he had to learn the hard way. And it's crazy because you already got that information. You know that knowledge, and you don't have to put yourself in that position, like, because you already know this isn't what makes me feel good. I'm not going to invest my energy into creating it and putting it out. It's pretty wise. It's probably why they was like, Billy's something else. He's a legend, even before I met him. Because you had it all figured out long before most of us did. So where can I find some of your music? You have a website, social media?
Yeah, social medias, YouTube. YouTube, I have some music videos out. And then iTunes, Spotify, whichever one.
So
you just type in Marc Sardou, and it'll come up.
Marc Sardou. So why not Sardou Marc? I mean, Sardou is your first name after all. So
yeah. So all I did was put Marc first, Marc Sardou, because it sounds like a regular name, Marc Sardou, instead of Sardou Marc. It doesn't have a ring to it, so I
don't know. Sardou gives me Sade vibes. I think you might need to go back to your first name and get some of that neo soul money. Maybe grow your hair out.
That's what I have. I have people calling me Sardou now.
Yeah.
Because I was working in a daycare, and I had the kids call me Mr. Billy because it was easy, and you know that was my name. That was my first job in high school, and then years later, when I started working in Linden, I was like, Sardou's my first name, not Billy. I'll have the kids call me Mr. Sardou. And then they called me Mr. Sardou, and I got used to that. And then coworkers started calling me Sardou. I was like, yeah. So it's Sardou. So that's what I walked into the district with. What was funny, you remember Mr. Plummer, who's Dr. Plummer now. So all the teachers know me as Sardou. The kids call me Mr. Sardou. He started working in the school that I was working in. And he said, somebody go get Billy. Everybody's like, who? Get Billy. And so it was just hilarious. Everybody was confused. And then I guess they figured that out. And on my social medias, I put Marc Sardou.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you didn't grow up with me, now people think Marc is actually my first name.
Okay.
Some coworkers be like, "Hey, what's up, Marc?" or whatever.
Telling you, Sardou, Sade, get you some wrist beads, a wooden pick, put it in your fro. Get you some of that
Ever since I started
D'Angelo vibe.
Sardou's been the name. It's always been Sardou.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But I like it. I'm gonna stick to Billy though, because that's what I know you by. I'm not changing up. Mama called you Sardou. I'm gonna call you Billy. But that's because that's how you was introduced.
Exactly. It
So
was funny.
Before I let you go ahead and give me a title of a song that we can find on YouTube, or you say you have music videos, maybe some music on other platforms. Where can the people go to hear some of the legendary Billy Sardou, his catalog?
I'll also plug in a short film that I have on YouTube.
And what's the name of that?
It's called Sardou's Keyboard.
Okay.
So if you type in Sardou's Keyboard, also, I mean, you can just go to Marc Sardou on YouTube and.
Without like spoiling the video, what would you say that short film is about?
Basically,
because I have seen it and it's pretty well done, well shot, and performance.
Long story short, just not giving up.
And then that's.
I don't give the details away of how I approached that mentality, but it was very broad. It's not just about music, but the message in there will kind of change perspectives on how to approach whatever you do.
That's a great point, and that's kind of where I got the name for my podcast. It's somewhat similar. Like I wish I started sooner. It's kind of like not giving up. Like some cases, I feel like even when I did start something, and then it didn't go my way or as smoothly as I thought it would go, I kind of let go of it or stopped doing it, and then having to start back up later. And it's like, how far would you have been had you never stopped and you just kept going? Mm-hmm. So I get that. Yeah. What would you say right now in your career that you're doing and you're noticing that you're getting like more traction and you're getting more successful? What would you say you're doing now that you wish you would have like knew before years ago and started sooner?
I guess the hustle of finding out how to get your stuff out there, networking, and actually learning about that more intentionally. Mm. I feel like my creativity has always been there, making the music, and then just learning the sound engineering part, which is fairly new, but the creativity has always been there. But I think if I knew about how to chase after those opportunities and network and do that, I think, things would have been a lot different for me. So it's more so on the business and the administration side.
Mm. More so the creative part of the music business you got in spades, but it's the business part that you wish you would have got more information about that you're getting now, but it would have benefited you earlier on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I definitely understand that because I'm going through it myself. However, I wish I would have stayed in, choir class back in high school because I was learning how to read notes and it was starting to make sense. And I was like, okay, wait, this one's on a different line. It's higher. I think I need to go higher. And then I would do it. And the teacher would be like, hey, good job. I didn't even have to tell you. I was like, oh, I'm learning how to read music. And then they switched programs. And I was like, there that go. Mm-hmm. So I wish I would have stuck with it somehow. And maybe right now I could have been in your quartet. I could have been standing in the back playing a big bass, pretending to play it, but maybe could have been able to sing. But hey, man, we did it. We finally got you on the show. It was a great show. I appreciate you for coming. I think it might have been I think you were probably the most trickiest guest to get on here. I think we went back and forth maybe for 2 months, but we finally got you. It felt like it. I don't know if it was, but I know I wasn't doing much back in February, but March was pretty tricky. And this was today, the last day of March.
I don't know what day we're in.
Yeah. But we got you in here, man. I appreciate you for being on the show. I'm going to put all the links to your social medias in the description. And I want people to come over and check you out, man. I think you're really talented. You're an inspiration. You're a stand-up guy. You've always been one. Ladies and gentlemen, Billy, or how do you want to say it? You go ahead. Introduce yourself to the world, how you want them to call you from now on.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Marc Sardou. You can call me Sardou. And my plan is to bring you some music with some quality to it.
Quality music. That's what it is. You heard it here first, hopefully. And again, thank you, bro. You've been stand up forever, man.